almost on time. So as usual, I will be giving a bit of a, oh, this is not working, a bit of an update on highlights from the last year, some metrics, things like that, and a few administrative things, as usual. But first of all, welcome to Nanjing. It's actually a very interesting and beautiful city, so you should use the time you have here to explore a little bit, maybe this evening, or if you stay a little bit longer. It's also historically very interesting. It used to be the capital of China a few times, I think. Obviously a big thank you to our sponsors, Citrix, Huawei, and Arm. Without sponsorship, we wouldn't be able to do events for the community. So before we go to the meat of the presentation, I want to go through a few mechanics. So, as you know, we have talks in the morning and we have design sessions in the afternoon. Design sessions are basically group discussions on specific topics. Everyone can raise a design session, and we schedule the sessions based on your input. And to do that, what I need you to do, if you haven't done so yet, please go to designsessions.xenproject.org and create an account. To do that, you need a verification code, and that is Nanjing 2018. And then there's a couple of different roles, right? So if you want to run a session and you can propose new sessions up to Friday 11 o'clock in the morning, please do so. So if you do that, you basically go, so if you want to raise a session, but I would suggest to just, if you're not experienced with this whole thing yet, attend a couple of sessions today, and then you can always raise another one tomorrow. We already have some raised. For everyone else, go to the list of sessions and rate and highlight which ones you want to attend. So there is like, I want to attend it, not at all, so then you choose none. If you really want to attend it, choose very, and then the other two are sort of, maybe and yes. And then we will try, we have an algorithm that should run at 11 o'clock before lunch, and that will automatically schedule the sessions based on your preferences. We used to try to do this manually, but it's quite a painful process. And we have lots of people sit around the whiteboard and argue, I want to attend that, so we decided this time we're going to do it automatically. And then after lunch, and lunch, by the way, today will be where breakfast was, so you basically just turn to the right, go down the stairs, and then right. Then we will, we have 10 minutes. I will bring up the schedule, and each session host has a minute or two to pitch their session, and then we can go to the rooms. We will have meeting rooms here, and there's 2 meeting rooms upstairs. On the second floor, they're pretty much exactly above this room. So what to expect in the sessions? So these are really discussion sessions around technical designs, process, community problems, anything you want to bring up really. They're not presentations, but I think the rooms have a projector, so if you want to start off with a few slides to explain a problem, that's okay. If you're hosting a session, you need to basically introduce the topic and provide some scope such that others can contribute. And if the topic isn't very defined, come up with a set of questions, things you want to get out of it to help facilitate it. And nominate a note taker, somebody who takes notes. And then everyone else, just sit together and discuss, and ears open and relax. as you want to be. We won't bite, it's a very friendly community, and everyone's here to help. And then the note taker can send the notes to me or send the notes to Xen afterwards. And I'm even volunteering to clean them up and so on and make them nice, so you don't have to. But I would prefer them electronically. And that's it. Any questions to the design sessions?
Oh, actually, the second one. Okay. Is it possible, we were looking at the website, is it possible to say we don't want a design session today but tomorrow?
Yes, that's possible, but you need to go to George or me to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, so when we run a scheduler, then we can come to me and find me, and then we'll do that in one of the breaks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so any more questions to design sessions? No, so let's continue. So this is so I saw it because Nanjing is quite beautiful. I'm going to put pictures of Nanjing all over my presentation. So a few highlights of the last year, since the last summit. We've done actually quite a lot. So we made some changes to how we work. So we changed the way how we track what is supported, what is security supported, and so on and so forth. We made some minor changes to maintainership to some degree, so not to maintainership, but if you're interested in a component in a maintainers file, you can advertise your name and then you will get an email such that you can review those changes. And we made some of the scripting around submitting patches a little bit easier. And for security issues, we're batching security issues. So instead of, whenever we can. So instead of having, security issues appearing at random points in time, we try to batch 4 or 5, which get released together. Of course, as we're at security issues, as a community, we had to deal with some rather big issues, such as Spectre and Meltdown. Quite a few of us were involved in making fixes for these. And there was an impact on x86 feature development because of it. And you will see that in some of the statistics as well. So a big thank you to those who have helped make that happen and make sure that we had some fixes available when those vulnerabilities went live. We had a few releases, so released 4.10 and 4.11 is almost out. Well, yes, we keep on trying. It was supposed to be last week. No, it's not this week, but maybe next week, so we'll see.
Definitely by Christmas.
Then the PD driver project is now a mature project as well. So we have now 3 mature projects, the hypervisor, Xapia, and PD. We also have a new sub-project called Unicraft that was created last December, following a talk by NEC at the summit. And there's some momentum building around it, and I think Stefano is going to announce a talk about a new project he is working on. And we also have a new advisory board member, Bitdefender. Question?
Yeah, would these slides be available on?
Yes, all the slides will be available on. I will upload them all to the Xen slideshow channel, but they will also be available on the event website once the email how to upload them has been sent out.
Thanks.
So all the speakers should be getting an email which explains how these slides have been uploaded. And then, yeah. So advisory board spending. So as we're talking about the advisory board a little bit, this is roughly where we're spending our money this year. So as you know, we have a PR function, so we're spending about 1/3 of our budget on that. Another, almost 1/3 this year on the developer event, because holding events in China is surprisingly expensive compared to Europe and the US. We put quite a bit of money aside for new test hardware, and last year we had quite a lot of, last year we nearly spent 40% of our budget on new hardware, and then the rest is just operational costs for running the colo, having people supporting the infrastructure and so on. I think also generally we're becoming better at working together. So I think the x86 community call, which we started this year, has been quite positive, and it's breaking down a lot of dependencies and difficult issues. And then we had other topic-specific calls. You know, we have had the ARM community call for a long time. We had a call on some functional safety, on PCI pass-through, and so on. And those kind of calls seem to work quite well. And again, I want to thank some of you for staying up, you know, getting up in the middle of the night to participate in those calls. It's really difficult to choose a time when we have participants all the way from New Zealand to China to you know, to the West Coast. Of course, as you heard quite a bit about this, there's been a lot of work on reworking the x86 hypervisor core, so we'll have talks following that. And I think that's Roger's been doing a lot of work on this. Oracle has been helping quite a bit, and I think Wei and George and Andrew are also working on this too. And there's been quite a bit of momentum and activity in embedded and automotive. So we put together a plan around safety certification. We have, you know, membership. We have leadership, project leadership members which work in embedded, like Stefano now, and we are also working more closely with friendly projects like OpenXT. So Rich Pazot, who's the community member of OpenXT, is flying in. He's coming this afternoon, I think, sometimes. So thank you for all the good work. Build bridges and relationships while you're here. So really make use of the next 3 days. It's very much intended to get you to work together, solve problems, and so on. And the talks in the morning are really just there to stimulate ideas and get started. So, a few stats. I do this always. So I wanted to look a little bit. It's just historically the number of patches which get posted. So this includes, this double counts some of the stuff. So if you have a series which gets reposted on a slightly different name or with a different certain number of patches in it, it shows up twice. The number of review commits people make and the number of Git commits. And what is interesting there is that actually, on average, you know, if you look at the commits which end up in Xen or Git, they've been growing around 10 to 11% a year on average. Also, we had some issues around the code review process in 2014, 2015, where we had a lot of arguments and discussions which were unnecessary, a lot of serious being posted, so that's showing up there as well. And it kind of got better in the last few years. However, what we're now seeing is we're having some issues. I call it the x86 bottleneck. So what I've done now here is I superimposed the proportion related to x86. And this pink thing, purple, like purple thing is the interesting thing. So on average in the past, about 24% of all commits used to be x86 related. And that very sharply grew to almost, well, to about 35% in 2016, and now we're nearly at 50%. And that's a problem because the amount of reviewers, the number of reviewers, primarily Jan and Andrew, are still the same, right? So we started identifying this problem in 2017. We suddenly noticed, you know, there was a spike in activity. And so Dario, Wei, and others are starting to pick now, Roger, Wei, Dario a little bit as well, and others are starting to pick up some of the slack. Jürgen from SUSE as well. And so we're getting this under control. But we were quite surprised about the change, and I think it's going to stay with us for a while. So if you look at the distribution of the top players in the community, that kind of gives you a brief overview of how it's evolved. At the end of the day, I think we're a fairly diverse community. About 80% of all the main contributions come from Citrix, SUSE, ARM, Intel, and AMD and Oracle. But there's some interesting trends emerging. So we're having some vendors like EPAM, showing up. Interestingly, Amazon never really contributed to the project. They're also showing up, and suddenly. So we'll see how that goes. But generally, the point is, we're a diverse community, and a trend, we're staying diverse. It's basically a good position to be in. Then I want to look at code reviews a little bit. So if we look at code reviews, fundamentally we have 5 people doing 50% of all the reviews, and it's been pretty much the same forever. So, like every year, I'm going to ask everyone to do more reviews, but, as you can see, that's not really happening. But at the end of the day, it's been working for us so far, and so I would grow. I would want to see more code reviews from people in the community, but if it doesn't happen. And I wanted to thank those people who've basically been reviewing code, and if those on the list could stand up so that other people can see your face. So we have with Andrew, Julian, Wei, Stefano, and George. So these are some of the top people reviewing your code. And actually, the interesting one there is Andri 2000, which is. It's not Andri Anisov, it's somebody else from EPAM. So it's the first time we actually have another company there, but the usual suspect. So that's good. So in summary, it's Alexander. Yeah, so it's so annoying. So why does Alexander use Andrei as a name? Because, never mind. So basically growth of 11% in terms of contributions since 2014. The x86 commits almost tripled, and almost 50% of all the commits are x86 related now. And this was a problem, and we're addressing it. Code reviews. As I said, we had some problems in 2014 and 15. We fixed most of these through training, design sessions, and so on. And now we're having a new set of issues around x86 in particular. But it seems we're starting to get that under control as well, through things like community call, having experienced community members like George shepherd big serious through the sort of process and helping them as well. But we still rely on us all now for reviewers. So, innovation, and I'm almost done with this now, and then we can go into questions. I don't want to run over. Oh, plenty of time. So we have a few really interesting things going on. So one development which I find personally very interesting is Unicraft. Unicraft is essentially an SDK to build unikernel bases. If you look at unikernels, you basically have a runtime environment, you need to have a unikernel base, and then you have the unikernel on top. And the situation we had in the past was that these had to be custom made for each separate unikernel, and Unicraft helps you to do that in a very clever and automatic way. It's also interesting because it was created in December following a talk about some interesting technologies by NEC at the summit. It targets Linux and KVM, and we're having 2 presentations about this tomorrow. Was it tomorrow or Friday? Friday. Oh, Friday. Well, I did write the slides 2 weeks ago. And we're also seeing first contributions from outside of NEC, which is, it always takes time to build momentum. That's the list of stuff happening in automotive and embedded. There's quite a lot of it there. These are the things I'm aware of. It may not be a complete list. I'm just going to pick out a few ones. I think this one we will probably hear more from EPAM about. There's a series about power management and more, which I think, Julian, so some of this is basically all act, right? And can go into 412. I saw some mails about that. Is that right? The Agios live migration stuff.
There is only a few bits in it, but I might expect to see the rest in 412. I haven't seen the series of the main list yet.
Okay, but there's stuff happening.
They did a demo a couple of months ago during the community talk.
We will see something from Stefano around .0-less systems, I think, is that right? There's been a bit of work around safety certification. I'll bring out the slide outlining our rough plan for that quickly because that has an impact for everyone. And there's a few other things from in that area which are coming from the OpenXT community. So, safety certification, that's an interesting and challenging problem. And if we look at the community today, we have the sort of more traditional server and cloud segment, and we have the emerging embedded and automotive. But safety certification is something which would impact all of us. So we can't, and so I'm trying to explain what we're trying to do there, and then we can have some discussions about some of the potentially difficult areas. So the first, there's 4 columns to that plan, which I think we set together at one of those community calls, was it 3 months ago, Stefano? And we started working through some of these areas. So the first is around MISRA compliance. I know that's potentially very controversial. I just need to look at Andrew. So where we are right now, we basically have a tooling partner that is willing to work with the project. I need to formalize this. This has currently got stuck because the company I'm working with is being bought by another company, so it's slowing things down. And then we need to iteratively, pick a number of issues and discuss in the mailing list, see how we would solve them, collect data, see how controversial it is. Can we get over some of these issues? The problem I think will come if we find situations where to comply with MISRA, we have to make trade-offs somehow in the cloud and traditional server virtualization market. We're going to have a problem with the arguments, and all these things are going to be bike shared issues more or less anyway, which are always fun in an open source project. Then there's 2 other things going on. Is around addressing DOM0. It's an Xen-based system. If you want to do safety certification, you have to address DOM0. And there's 2 things going on. There is an Altos-based DOM0 project. This is being driven by EPAM. And they said they probably will have a prototype ready in July or August to share with the community. And Stefano's been working towards a DOM0-less system. The other thing which is already ongoing is to create minimal, primarily ARM-based Xen configuration. So Stefano, roughly where are we there now with code size?
We're about 45,000.
Also, that's 45,000 lines of code for the ARM hypervisor. So that's quite impressive. I think we went down from 70,000 to 45, right? So that's quite a big reduction. And if you look at the level of certification we're looking for, that will be about 5 man-years to safety certify.
We also have a standard tool now to, based on CLOC, to automatically count the lines of code.
Yeah.
So it's not up for, it's not like, art to calculate the number of code anymore. It's just a command away.
Yeah, so just to repeat, Stefano built a mechanism into the build system to count the number of lines of codes such that we have comparable numbers, which we didn't really have beforehand, and I tried to get some of the numbers up, and it has always been a bit of a nightmare. And the biggest part of it is around actually getting this done. And at this stage, we're starting to negotiate and talk to various partners who are interested in safety certification. And at some point later in the year, we will need to set up some sort of formal process. So right now, it's all about collecting data to see what is achievable, right? And what I mean by data is, if we had 200,000 lines of code which needed to be certified, we would have to approach the problem differently as if it was like 40,000, right? So also, I want to know how many problems will we have if we, go through some of the coding standards issues and so on. But I think at this stage we're primarily collecting data. And then once we have that, we can plan the next phase. But I'm quite pleased because we're making progress on a lot of these things. The other key thing is there's a lot of work on core architecture and security in x86. So core architecture changes, obviously that's PDH, things like PCI pass-through, the interface between QEMU and Xen, and also deprivileged QEMU and all those things. These have been going on for some time. Work on brand tables and so on and so forth. On the security side, I think we'll hear a little bit about this today. This is a response to side channel attacks. And I think George will talk about this project called Panopticon. Panopticon, I think, is like a prison where from everywhere you can see it. Everything, you just Google it, it's quite interesting. They used to use them in the 1800s in some countries. And the idea there is that we shouldn't have any, that we remove secrets which are remove information about guests which are currently stored in the hypervisor, which could be exploited by side channel attacks. And if we don't store this information, then obviously we would never be affected by those kind of attacks. And then there's a number of big and complex x86 features coming as well, and we'll hear more about that as well. So that's pretty much from me today. So thank you for joining. I hope you're going to get value out of it. If you have questions, if you need anything, if you want anything, just approach me anytime during the conference. And I'm opening the floor to questions. Can somebody get a mic to the back?
I can speak loudly.
You discussed a lot about the updates and current projects related to automobile and embedded system, but how do you think about the ongoing project and features related to cloud and traditional virtualization servers cloud? I'm asking this question because I heard that, I don't know if we have Amazon Fox here, but it seems the most recent instance for Amazon is based on KVM, so I would like to know how the communities think about it. Are we going to focus on the cloud in the future, or we are going to switch from cloud to embedded system? So I'm curious about it.
I think we're going to have to do both, right? The reason why we don't have a lot of cool, well, we actually have a lot of cool stuff happening in x86 and cloud. It's just that a lot of these things are fairly complex and take a long time, and we've been talking about them for some time. So they don't sound as sexy as some of the other stuff in the embedded and automotive stuff areas, which just have come up recently, right? So if you think about PDH, that's been going on for a while, but we're making real good progress on that, and it's really moving forward. Also, suddenly we had to change a lot of our plans because of all those hardware-related vulnerabilities, and they're forcing us to rethink, some of the past design choices we've made, and the same is true for other projects. So yes, it sounds less sexy, but actually, if you look at the figures, we're actually doing most of the work now in x86, right? And that's a function of the of the level of activity there. Thank you. Any other questions?